911, what's your emergency?
In late 2010, a short, disturbing video appeared on the internet, showing a man interacting with kittens in a small, unremarkable room. At first glance, the video seemed amateur and almost mundane, the kind of clip that might go unnoticed among millions of uploads. But by the end of the footage, one of the kittens was dead. The person behind the camera never spoke, never panicked, and never attempted to hide what he had done. The video was not an outburst of rage or a moment of loss of control. It was staged, and more importantly, it was uploaded deliberately, as if it were an invitation. What followed was not just outrage, but an internet-wide hunt that would slowly reveal a man who didn't just want attention. He wanted to be watched, analyzed, and remembered, long before his name became associated with violence. Luka Magnotta was already deeply embedded in the internet, carefully constructing multiple versions of himself across different platforms. He appeared on modeling websites, escort listings, and casting calls, often exaggerating his success or fabricating achievements entirely. In some places, he claimed to be an aspiring actor or model on the brink of discovery. In others, he presented himself as a victim, suggesting that powerful individuals or shadowy groups were conspiring against him. None of these claims could be verified, but that seemed to be the point. Luka wasn't interested in consistency or truth. He was interested in presence. What made his online activity unsettling in hindsight was the sheer volume and coordination of it. He created multiple usernames and sock puppet accounts, often engaging in conversations about himself as if he were a separate admirer or concerned observer. On forums, he would defend his own reputation, accuse others of harassment, or fuel rumors that kept his name circulating. Even when the attention was negative, it served its purpose. Luka understood something fundamental about the internet early on. Visibility mattered more than credibility. As the years passed, his need for recognition intensified. Simple self-promotion was no longer enough. Modeling photos and fabricated backstories failed to generate the kind of fixation he craved. The internet rewarded shock, controversy, and spectacle. And Luka was paying attention. He wasn't drifting toward violence impulsively. He was watching, learning, and waiting for something that would finally force people to look at him and keep looking. This obsessive relationship with being observed would soon cross a line. And when it did, the internet would become both his stage and, eventually, his undoing. The first video was not an isolated act. In the months that followed, more videos appeared, each more disturbing than the last. They were uploaded to different platforms, sometimes under new usernames, sometimes anonymously. But the pattern was unmistakable. The setting remained similar. A small room, minimal decoration, controlled camera angles. What changed was the level of cruelty. Each video seemed designed not just to shock, but to provoke a reaction, as if the creator were carefully measuring how far he could go before the internet fully turned its attention toward him. Online communities quickly began to connect the dots. Animal welfare forums, Facebook groups, and message boards dedicated to identifying animal abusers started archiving the videos before they could be taken down. Viewers analyzed every frame with obsessive precision, searching for reflections in mirrors, brand names on furniture, or any detail that could reveal the uploader's location. The internet had seen disturbing content before, but this felt different. The person behind the videos was escalating, and many believed the violence would not stop with animals. What made the situation more unsettling was the behavior of the uploader himself. Instead of hiding from the backlash, he appeared to feed it. Under different aliases, he would comment on posts discussing the videos, sometimes condemning the acts, sometimes subtly defending them, and occasionally steering attention back toward himself. In some cases, he even accused innocent people of being responsible, redirecting suspicion and chaos within the community. This manipulation wasn't random. It was strategic, designed to keep the conversation alive and the hunt ongoing. As outrage spread, so did frustration. Despite thousands of people scrutinizing the footage and reporting accounts, progress was slow. Law enforcement involvement was limited, and many authorities treated the videos as isolated incidents rather than warnings of something more serious. For the online investigators, this inaction only intensified the sense of urgency. The videos were no longer viewed as mere acts of cruelty. They were seen as signals, rehearsals for something worse. By this point, the internet wasn't just observing Luka Magnotta. It was interacting with him, unknowingly participating in the attention he craved. Every repost, every analysis, every heated debate reinforced the cycle. The more people searched for him, the more he seemed to thrive. And while most viewers believed they were closing in on a criminal, few realized they were watching the early stages of a much larger and more dangerous performance. Some members of these online groups began to voice a chilling concern. If someone was capable of this level of calculated cruelty in front of a camera, it was only a matter of time before the violence escalated again, and the next victim might not be an animal. As the videos continued to circulate, a loose network of internet users transformed into something more organized. Forums dedicated to identifying the person behind the footage grew rapidly, pulling in activists, amateur investigators, and ordinary viewers who felt a growing sense of responsibility. Screenshots were archived, upload timestamps were logged, and entire threads were dedicated to reconstructing the uploader's movements based on fragments of digital evidence. The hunt was no longer driven by curiosity alone. It was fueled by fear that something far worse was coming. Within these communities, theories multiplied. Some users believed the videos originated in Eastern Europe. Others suspected North America. Accents were analyzed when brief audio surfaced. Electrical socket styles were compared across countries. Even the vacuum cleaner seen in one video became a focal point, with users matching its model number to regional retailers. The investigation felt meticulous, almost professional, but it was also chaotic. Misinformation spread just as quickly as legitimate clues, and innocent people found themselves accused based on flimsy similarities or anonymous tips. What no one realized at the time was that Luka Magnotta was watching all of this unfold in real time. Under multiple fake accounts, he monitored discussions, corrected false assumptions when they drifted too far from the truth, and occasionally introduced misleading details to send the community in the wrong direction. In some instances, he openly taunted investigators, subtly encouraging them to keep digging. The hunt itself had become part of the spectacle, and Luka was no longer just the subject of attention, he was orchestrating it. This interaction created a dangerous feedback loop. The more the internet pursued him, the more validated he seemed to feel. His actions became increasingly bold, as if he were testing the limits of how far he could go without being stopped. For the people searching for him, there was a growing sense of dread. Many openly speculated that the escalation wouldn't end with animals, and some even predicted that a human life would eventually be taken. Those warnings, scattered across archived forum posts, would later read less like speculation and more like prophecy. Despite the intensity of the online hunt, concrete identification remained just out of reach. Law enforcement agencies, when contacted, often dismissed the internet's findings as unreliable or incomplete. To many investigators, the case still lacked a clear suspect. This disconnect between online urgency and official response only deepened the community's frustration. They felt they were racing against time, watching someone spiral toward something irreversible while being powerless to intervene. By the time the forums began to quiet, exhausted by dead ends and false leads, Luka Magnotta had already moved on to the next phase of his plan. The internet believed it was closing in on a predator. In reality, it had unknowingly helped sharpen him. And then, in 2012, everything changed. In May 2012, the fears that had quietly circulated through internet forums became reality. A video surfaced online showing the murder and dismemberment of a young man named Jun Lin, a student living in Montreal. The footage was uploaded deliberately, accompanied by music and staged with the same cold control seen in the earlier animal videos. There was no attempt to conceal the act or soften its impact. It was explicit proof that the violence had escalated exactly as many had warned it would. The discovery of the crime did not begin with the video alone. A suitcase containing human remains was found near a trash bin in Montreal, followed shortly by another package mailed directly to a Canadian political office. The investigation immediately took on an international scale. But what stunned both authorities and the public was how openly the crime had been documented and distributed online. This was not a killer trying to erase evidence. It was a killer broadcasting his act, fully aware of the attention it would generate. Almost immediately, internet communities recognized the pattern. The same controlled filming style, the same deliberate pacing, the same hunger to provoke reaction. For those who had followed the earlier videos, the realization was devastating. The escalation they had feared had arrived, and the internet had seen it coming years earlier. Archived posts resurfaced, filled with warnings that now felt unbearably specific. The online hunt reignited. But this time, the stakes were no longer theoretical. Luka Magnotta did not flee quietly. Instead, he seemed to lean into the chaos. Shortly after the video's release, a Facebook account believed to be connected to him began posting cryptic messages and images, some referencing the murder directly. News outlets around the world picked up the story, amplifying his name and image across television screens and headlines. For Luka, this was the culmination of years spent chasing recognition. The attention he had sought was finally absolute. As police worked to track his movements, it became clear that he had already left Canada. Surveillance footage and travel records showed him moving through multiple countries, staying one step ahead of authorities, while the public watched in real time. The case transformed into a global manhunt, with his face plastered across airports, newspapers, and online feeds. Ironically, the same internet that had once struggled to identify him now made it impossible for him to disappear. For many, the most disturbing realization was not just that a murder had occurred, but that it had unfolded almost exactly as predicted. The internet had not only documented Luka Magnotta's descent, it had archived it. Every post, every alias, every disturbing upload now formed a timeline leading directly to the crime. What remained was a haunting question. If the warning signs had been so visible, why had no one been able to stop it? As the investigation intensified, Luka Magnotta became one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Almost overnight, news outlets broadcast his image relentlessly, while online users tracked his movements with obsessive focus. Surveillance photos from airports, train stations, and internet cafes began circulating across social media, often faster than law enforcement could officially confirm them. The hunt had crossed from online speculation into real-world pursuit. And once again, the internet played a central role. Magnotta's escape route revealed a disturbing level of confidence. He traveled through multiple European countries, seemingly aware that his actions were being monitored yet unwilling to fade into obscurity. In some locations, he accessed public computers to read news articles about himself, watching the coverage of the murder and the global response it provoked. This behavior reinforced what many investigators had begun to understand. The attention itself was not a side effect of the crime, but one of its primary motivations. The final break came not through advanced forensic technology, but through recognition. In Berlin, a man noticed Magnotta in an internet cafe, while news footage of the case played on a television nearby. His face, already deeply embedded in the public consciousness, was impossible to miss. Police were alerted, and Luka Magnotta was arrested without resistance. The manhunt ended in the same environment where much of the case had unfolded, surrounded by screens, headlines, and digital traces. As details of his arrest spread, internet communities that had followed the case for years reacted with a mixture of relief and anger. Relief that the violence had finally stopped, and anger that so many warning signs had been ignored. Archived forum threads resurfaced once again, this time as evidence of missed opportunities rather than speculation. The same users who had once been dismissed as overreacting were now proven right, though at a devastating cost. In court, prosecutors laid out the extensive digital trail Magnotta had left behind. His online aliases, fabricated conversations, and carefully staged videos painted a picture of someone who had used the internet not just as a tool, but as a mirror reflecting back the attention he desperately craved. The case forced a broader conversation about how online platforms handle disturbing content and how easily harmful behavior can escalate when it is met with visibility instead of intervention. The story, however, did not end with a conviction. Long after the headlines faded, the archived videos, posts, and discussions remained online, preserved in fragments across forums and databases. They served as a permanent record of how the internet had witnessed a crime unfolding in slow motion. Unable to stop it, yet deeply involved in every stage of its development. Long after Luka Magnotta was sentenced to life in prison, the internet he once exploited continued to grapple with the implications of his case. Unlike many crimes that fade with time, this one remained disturbingly accessible. The videos, though removed from mainstream platforms, were never fully erased. Archived discussions, screenshots, and investigative threads still exist, scattered across the web like digital fossils. Together, they form a permanent record of a crime that unfolded not in isolation, but in front of a global audience. What makes the case uniquely unsettling is not only the violence itself, but the way it blurred the line between observer and participant. Thousands of people watched, analyzed, and discussed Luka's actions in real time, often believing they were helping to stop something worse. In reality, their attention may have fueled the very escalation they feared. The case forced an uncomfortable question into public consciousness. When does exposure become encouragement? And when does documentation become performance? For law enforcement and online platforms, the Magnotta case became a reference point. It exposed gaps in how early warning signs are treated, especially when disturbing behavior exists in a gray area between legality and danger. Animal abuse videos, online harassment, fabricated identities, each piece alone seemed insufficient to trigger serious intervention. Together, they formed a pattern that was only recognized after it was too late. The internet had seen the trajectory, but lacked the mechanisms to act decisively. For viewers today, the story serves as a cautionary tale about the nature of attention in the digital age. Luka Magnotta did not stumble into notoriety. He engineered it, carefully learning how outrage, shock, and visibility could be weaponized. The internet did not create him, but it provided the stage he needed. And once that stage existed, it became impossible to look away. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the case is how predictable it was in hindsight. The archived warnings, the escalating behavior, the desire to be watched, all of it points to a future that many sensed but could not prevent. It leaves behind a lingering unease, not just about one individual, but about the systems that allowed such a trajectory to play out publicly. The Luka Magnotta case is no longer just a story about a murder. It is a story about the internet itself, how it remembers, how it amplifies, and how, sometimes, it watches a tragedy form long before it knows how to stop it.